Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Spiritual Awakening series. And today I'm going to talk about the silence. Now, everything about spirituality, everything is about silence. It is about going inside you and appreciating the silence of your soul. Because this world is so full of noise. The noise around us is so vast. It comes in different forms, and not all of it is pleasant. And therefore, when we say that you need to do something like meditation, when you need to meditate, or when you pray, or when you think, when you're trying to plan your life, everything requires silence. Only when you silence your mind and soul will you understand the deep hidden truths of a spiritual awakening experience. Now, one thing I wanted to share today is about the fact that not all of us are comfortable with silence. You see, when you tell people that you need to meditate and it has to be, you have to be calm, half of us have a hard time even concentrating. We get distracted. The average, there is a scientific proof, a fact, that theory that goes to say that the average attention span for an adult is 40 seconds. And if that 40 seconds does not give the adult any kind of positive or any kind of stimulation whatsoever to keep the person, alert enough, it tends to immediately drag the mind out into another object or stimulation. Now, this is something that has been scientifically proven. So even during meditation, we need some kind of stimulation to keep us here, in the now, all right? And that is why I said silence is so important, to be comfortable in silence. Not many of us are comfortable in silence, and that is why I put up a post earlier today talking about being comfortable when you're silent. Silence is golden, silence is sacred, and it is that understanding that will actually help you to move to the next level of achieving a higher vibration when you are trying to awaken spiritually. Without silence, half of these things will not come through. Without silence, you cannot meditate, and meditation is a way to raise your vibrations. And how can you actually train your mind to be comfortable in silence? Now, the first thing that we need to do is work in our comfort zone, within our comfort zone. And what is our comfort zone? Our comfort zone is the life here. To be able to find silence in here, where we are right now, requires you to do activities or, simply make a conscious effort to be alone. And not feel lonely, but be alone. Solitude, as I said, can be blissful. It is how we make it. Some of us are comfortable being alone. We're naturally loners, or we like the solitude around us. Some of us are not comfortable being alone. We tend to want, company. We want some kind of stimulation to constantly keep our minds involved in something, busy. So all you need to do is make a conscious effort to do things on your own. That is the first step. If you have some issues with being comfortable on your own, you can start off from the most comfortable activity that will keep you engrossed, will keep you busy, you know what I mean? So the first thing you need to do is take time out, maybe half an hour a day or less, whatever amount is comfortable with you. Just sit down and do something on your own, and not in an activity that requires you to, not something that would distract you from silence, you know what I mean? By reading a book, you're distracting your mind again. By doing some kind of activity or listening to some kind of guided meditation or anything, that is again distracting your mind. You need to be on your own. When I talk about inner silence, you need to be comfortable without doing anything that will actually distract your mind, but you need to find something that will keep you thinking, that will keep you in peace. Listening to music is a great way to do it. Listen to music that is very soothing, and not that something that will again drift your mind off to some other kind of, a daydream, for instance. This is supposed to, anything that kind of calms you down is good enough. And along the way, you will realize over time that you are actually getting comfortable on your own. You don't really need other people. You don't need to be busy. constantly. This is a way of making sure that you get comfortable in being silent. And after some point of time, look for activities where you don't really have to do anything. You are just comfortable simply being. You can even daydream at a point of time. Just let your mind flow, go with the flow, think about where you are as a person, think about how far you've come. It is about positive thoughts that are, you have to inflict positive thoughts onto yourself. Infuse it. Remember things that made you happy. Remember things that have been, really challenging, but you overcome it. So things that strengthen you on the inside, things that make you work on the inside, positivity. And this positivity will also raise your vibrations. Because when you are depressed, when you're overwhelmed, your vibrations lower. Okay, and that works exactly opposite to what is expected when you're supposed to be spiritually in tune. If you wish to contact your spirit guides and your loved ones on the other side, your vibrations need to be high enough for them to come and meet you somewhere in between, and that is important. Okay, and also for meditation, you need to occupy your mind. I don't know if many of you are aware of this exercise that I was talking about, using your third eye during meditation to help you, because most of the times we are constantly, we're receiving messages from the other side, but we're not aware of it because our mind is so full of clutter, is so busy. You need to be quiet to receive messages. When you close your eyes during meditation, you need to seek and wait for messages. The messages will come through images when your eyes are closed, using your third eye. The messages come through your third eye, and your third eye is not some mystical thing. You've always been using your third eye. Your third eye is right in between your eyebrows, and you've been using it all the time. Right? Now, when you daydream, you're using your third eye. You're not using your physical eyes to daydream. You're not seeing those visions, those images and visions through your physical eyes. You're using your third eye. Simultaneously, when you dream at night, when you sleep, your physical eyes are closed. It's with your third eye that you perceive your dream, that you see your dream. Your soul uses the third eye. When you're alive, when you're awake, right from childhood, you have been using your third eye, maybe not for spiritual purposes, but it's always been used to survive here, because our brain connects information, connects to the outer world, the galaxy, the universe at large, using images. It remembers images. It stores memory as images and not as words and letters. Even words and letters are stored as images. Okay? So when you think of, say, for example, an apple, you're always thinking, when you think of the word apple, it's not the word that appears, it is the image, a 2D image of an apple that appears in your mind. You need to understand that is how you've always thought. Now, how do you improve your third eye in order to see your spirit guides and your guardian angels in the other dimensions? Now, that's something I'm going to discuss at a different video message, but today I'm going to focus more on silence in your mind. When you are meditating, you can keep yourself occupied, but at the same time silent, right? This apple exercise that I'm talking about can help you to improve your concentration, as well as to improve your third eye, because while you're meditating and you're seeing these images with your eyes closed, the apple with your eyes is closed, but your third eye is still working. Now, you don't have to constantly rely on that apple. After a point of time, you can just let go and see what other images come through, because that apple, visualizing that apple in your third eye will actually improve your third eye to receiving other messages as well in the same form. It will give you a sense of comfort. You see, you get comfortable seeing other images. So you need to understand that your third eye is very powerful for both to use them as when you're alive and you're awake and conscious, as well as when you are looking for spiritual messages. So these are things that you need to understand. You need to have that inner silence to be able to focus when you meditate, when you try to connect to your spirit guides. The ego is something that will always come in between when you meditate. It will try to tell you, look, these images don't look real, and maybe it's just your mind. No, it's not. There are no coincidences. There are only a few ways that your guides and your guardian angels and your loved ones can get in touch with you. They have only few ways of doing it. And if you were to put ego and fear and doubt into it, you are eliminating that the connection. You are automatically eliminating and blocking yourself in these messages. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing to do. You are always given a free will to decide when you want to receive these messages and when you want to ignore them. But if you are seriously looking at receiving messages, if you're seriously thinking of progressing as a soul and in your spiritual awakening process, you will have to follow certain things to get there. It's a muscle. Your third eye is a muscle. Your intuition is a muscle. You need to work on these muscles in order for them to work better and better and better. The only reason why my third eye is as good as my physical eyes, and I can see my guides, I can see everything on the other side, is because I've been using them for decades. I've been using them for decades, for 12 to 16 hours a day. Imagine if you can just compare, the amount of work I've put into it, you will understand why I am who I am with my gifts, as opposed to a person who's not really using them, for spiritual purposes. It is very simple logic. Now you need to understand that silence is very important. All right? You don't have to fear silence. Most of us fear silence. The whole concept of being alone, that is why we always cling ourselves, attach ourselves to a lot of things. We attach ourselves to relationships because we worry, we fear that if we leave that person or if that person leaves us, we will be alone. The whole concept of being alone is a scary thought for most of us because we don't want to be alone. Yes, no man is an island, but that doesn't mean that you have to attach yourself to everything to feel like you belong. You know what I mean? You belong anyway. And there are no real goodbyes because we're all part of one consciousness. We only have to serve our purpose. We only allow people, or we only have to have people around us as long as they have something to serve. And that is how the universe has always functioned. That is how every soul has always functioned. You see, the fear of letting go, the fear of being alone when you don't have things to do is because you attach yourself emotionally more than you should, for longer than you should, to certain inanimate or animated objects and people and situations and circumstances, environments. All right? You need to disconnect yourself. Nothing is going to happen to you. You will not be hurt. You will not be harmed. You will not be left feeling abandoned. All of those thoughts are thoughts of the ego telling you that you will be alone, you will feel lonely, you're going to feel isolated, you're going to be depressed. You know what I mean? You will be able to find happiness within yourself. It is perception, how you perceive solitude. Solitude can be magnificent. Solitude can give you so much peace. Solitude can also bring negative things. It's just about how you look at things. So I hope this is a sort of an eye-opener for many of you, because when you want to meditate and you can't concentrate, it only explains the fact that you're having a hard time understanding that it is okay to be alone. It is okay to be silent. And this silence is very, very important if you wish to awaken spiritually. Then some of us who have had busy lives, or who've always felt the need to attach ourselves to people and situations, you will realize that meditation is hard because you cannot silence your mind. That is a difference. You see, some people who have always been how do I say that, they prefer solitude, they're loners, they will find it easier to do something like meditation because their mind is accustomed to that. But those who have always been busy, those who have always had the need to keep themselves occupied in some way or the other, will have trouble naturally. So it is about training yourself. It is not impossible to meditate. It is not impossible to find comfort in silence. It is just practice. And it will be possible just for you as it is for anyone else. Okay? And the whole thing about fearing silence, the fear can be overcome by actually thinking of things that you really love about yourself. You have to analyze yourself. You can study yourself. See how far you've come. What are the good and bad? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Work on your weaknesses. Work on your strengths. That is when you literally, when you're quiet, you start to think, you see, and it is what you think in silence that matters. What you think in silence matters. What do you really think when you're silent? Do you start thinking of all these situations that didn't go right? Do you start wondering why so many things had to go wrong? Why wouldn't you change your perception and start thinking about what are the things that went right for you? Think about the things that you're blessed with. Look at things that you can improve in yourself. And do things for yourself. How can you love yourself more? How can you respect yourself more? There are so many things you can do when you silence your mind. Because when you silence your mind, you're connecting to your higher self or your soul. And this is a very divine connection that sets you onto this beautiful journey of spiritual awakening. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will be back with more videos. I look forward to seeing you again for the next live session. I love you all. Namaste.